So one important thing in working with any language is knowing how to comment your code. And there's two very common reasons why we're going to comment our code. One is that we need to provide information on how this piece of code is working. Why is it doing what it's doing? And that is very important. There's times that there's more than one way to solve a problem. In fact, that happens quite often in our coding experiences. So why did you pick that method? Was it faster? Was it more secure? Was it more robust? What was it? And providing information as to why you coded something and how it's working is very important. It's kind of foolish to code things and say, oh, I'm printing out something here, and you have an echo statement that doesn't provide any real value. But understanding how it's being printed out, that has lots of value. There's a second reason why we're going to comment out stuff. And that is we need to test, does removing this block of code fix a problem? Or maybe we can identify where the actual error is occurring to help us debug. Now, in a lot of languages, we can set up debugging points, but that's a little bit harder in PHP. But there's just not a lot of debugging tools that actually work with PHP because our debugger and our IDE is separate from how we're viewing it inside of a web browser. So what we want to look at is how do we write our comments in PHP. Now, luckily, if you're familiar with C and C++, you're going to find writing these comments very, very easy because it uses the exact same style. So in our code here, I can come down and write 2 forward slashes, and this is a single line comment. Anytime I have 2 slashes, it's a single line comment, and anything from those 2 slashes forward are commented out. Now, I have a multi-line comment. This is known as sometimes a C-style comment. And I'll have something simple like a slash and a star. And as many lines as I want is commented until I have the star and the forward slash again. Now, what's nice about this is that we can actually be in part of a piece of code. So I might have a long line of code and I can comment out just a section of it, or I can comment out multiple sections. Now, I mentioned one of the reasons for writing comments is to explain our code. And let me show you an example of how we sometimes do that. And we use a multi-line comment, but we're going to say star and give 2 stars. You'll notice that my editor automatically put in a closing star and backslash. And if I hit the enter key, I'm going to put a star, line them up, and now I can write my comments. And I can have a block of code. It's color coded for me because I'm using an IDE. If I'm not using an IDE, I see that visual line of code. And I might say something like, this is the function name, my inputs, and define what type of parameters are being passed in. I might call it parameters. I might put my parameters, and here I'll define what parameters are passed in, what their data types are expected to be. My return data. What am I returning? I want to know this. I also want to know what type of data I'm going to expect. So what's my data type? And then I can put in comments about how it works and why I chose this method. And this is a very common way that we'll see it. Now, different languages and different rules will sometimes have specific ways that it's looking at doing this. And that kind of depends upon what system you're using. Are you using an automatic documentation system, which will generate information about the API code that maybe you've written and allow it to be shared with other users? There's a lot of different, questions about this. This is just a general form that you'll see. Sometimes there'll be slight variations based upon what's needed for your system or your coding practices and standards wherever you work or go to school. So always pay attention to those, but make sure you're using and writing your comments. That way you'll have easier information to follow, easier code to work with, and not only for you, but for other people. So regardless of what methodology you're going to be using, make sure that you are using your comments, writing them consistently. That way your code is easier to follow and use, not only by yourself, but by other people that might have to follow after you, especially if you're working on a team.